Good morning. Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name's Radha. Here with our family of seekers. We are studying the Bhagavad Gita, talking about its relevance to our lives, and diving in deep, really deep. And today we are in this section of the Bhagavad Gita called the Chatur Sloki section. It's these four verses in the Gita that they call like the nutshell verses of the Gita. So it's really it's like the essence of the Gita all in these four verses. So if you don't know anything about the Gita, come study these four verses and you're in decent shape. And that's what we're doing today. We are on chapter 10, text 10. So this is the third of the four verses that we're studying, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And before we get into that, Stella, can you say our prayers for us?
Sure. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jana Salakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Haribol.
Haribol. Thank you. Okay, 10:10. I will share my screen and we'll get right into it. When you're ready, Stella.
Hesham Satata Yuksavanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayan. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they came to. I'm sorry. I'll start over. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Beautiful. Thank you. So the previous verse described what devotion looks like. The heart resting in Krishna. We remember we talked about our internal home, where your mind goes when you're not thinking about anything. You know, what we really take shelter in, what we really care about, cultivating our internal home. And this verse is talking about what happens next. So Krishna's basically saying, if you lovingly try to serve me, I'll take care of the rest. Just make me your inner home and I'll take care of the rest. You know, I'll give you the understanding by which you can come to me. Just one second, sorry. Okay. And this is incredibly reassuring. You know, he's not saying first you need to master all philosophy or, eliminate every doubt. He's saying be devoted, be sincere, serve with love, and I'll give you the understanding that you need. So you don't have to have any material qualification. You don't have to be a scholar or you don't, you just have to serve with love and he'll provide the rest. But we have to notice the key word here is love. If we approach devotional life with the kind of attitude of like, I have to do this or why isn't this working? Those kinds of thoughts start to just kind of close ourselves off. And it's not that Krishna withholds, it's it's that our mood blocks the flow. So when we're not so open, when our heart is not so open, we're blocking the flow. But when the service, when it's done with warmth, even imperfectly, Krishna will supply that intelligence from within. And the intelligence has one purpose, and that is to bring us closer to him. It's not random insight, it's not just cleverness. It's guidance that moves us towards our ultimate goal. And first we have to be clear about the goal. If our goal is success, the mind organizes around that. If our goal is comfort, the mind organizes around that. But if the goal is Krishna, then everything slowly reorganizes around that. So we have to get really clear about the goal. And scripture gives us the map. Scripture gives us the map, and devotional service is the walking path. And as we walk, Krishna begins giving us clarity from within. So that's what this verse is saying here. Just serve me with a loving heart, and I'll give you that GPS from within. You don't even have to worry about it. And that's so, again, reassuring because we've all been there. Sometimes making the right choice is hard. And the Gita tells us that we shouldn't be surprised by that. The Gita tells us that there's an inner force that pulls us away from what we know is right and towards what we know isn't. That ice cream in the fridge at midnight is what I'm thinking about right now. Right? And the Gita tells us this force is selfish desire. It clouds our judgment, it covers our knowledge, it acts like an enemy within. And it can even sabotage our own intelligence. And this is why we need help that's higher than our own willpower. Our own willpower is just not enough, no matter how strong you are. This is like a principle you learn in AA that it's like you cannot depend on your own willpower. It will fail you. We need Krishna. We need a higher power. And in those moments of temptation, if we consciously turn towards him, sincerely ask for guidance, he'll strengthen us from within. He'll help us choose wisely. And he'll even help us resist. And this isn't always easy. The mind has long-standing habits. And indulgence just becomes our automatic setting, our default response. And sometimes we don't even pause to remember Krishna. We just react. So we have to change that default setting. And we change that default setting by choosing Krishna regularly. Choosing him regularly through steady bhakti practice, through chanting, through remembering, through serving, through studying. This is slowly retraining the heart. And when we slowly retrain the heart, our inner inclination begins to shift. And even before that shift happens, bhakti, just these practices attract Krishna's mercy. He starts guiding us from within. His gentle voice restrains us, it redirects us, it strengthens our better impulses. He becomes the guiding force in our lives. But in order for that to happen, we have to open our hearts up to him. We have to give him a nice, comfortable place to live in our hearts. Not a forced place, not a dry place, but a very welcoming place in our hearts. And once he has that, he'll guide us. And I've experienced this firsthand. Things that used to be so difficult, that used to pull me so much, I don't even think about anymore. Even just like habits or like codependent relationship tendencies. When Krishna becomes your goal, it's like these you just have no use for these other things. It's like how do they even serve you anymore? They don't. But and this is what happens. Krishna takes residence in your heart, and he starts taking over your life. He gives you that understanding by which you can come closer and closer to him. And part of that understanding is dropping these other false gods that used to serve us, that we think served us, that really kind of brought us down. Right? And even if we slip sometimes, the divine presence, it'll gradually make these relapses less appealing. And it'll be easier. Self-control will just be easier. So this is the process. So that, and then over time, indulgence, it feels less satisfying. Alignment feels more natural. So know that every time that you're choosing Krishna, even in small ways, you're reinforcing this new direction for our lives. You're making that little home in your heart more appealing, more comfortable for Krishna. At every time you choose him. And you're not just making one good choice. We're reshaping who we're becoming. And in that reshaping, he's taking more and more residence in our heart, guiding and empowering us, to choose wisely. This understanding, this also reshapes how we understand prayer. Sometimes we pray for something, and underneath of that prayer, we're a little worried, like, what if God doesn't answer? What if this doesn't work out? If God really cares, wouldn't he just fix this for me? And this is such an honest place to be. But here's the thing. God absolutely cares. Always. And the question isn't whether he responds. The question is how he responds. And in order to really understand that, we have to ask this deeper question. This deeper question is, what do we actually need most? When we're in the midst of a problem, it feels obvious. If I could just get this job, if this relationship just works out, if this health issue just goes away, then everything in my life will be okay. Then I'll be okay. I need that, God. That's what I need. And sometimes we'll even get the thing that we prayed for, like I really want this job. God will give you this job. But our mind still feels just completely restless and anxious, reactive, unclear. Right? And in that, we can even sabotage it, and we'll still feel miserable. So we have to understand that maybe sometimes the deeper need isn't just the situation changing, but maybe the deeper need is developing this calmness, this clarity, this steadiness. And where does that come from? This comes from raising our consciousness, from remembering, from remembering I'm not this body, I'm an eternal soul. My life is not random. And when we can make contact with that spiritual ground, that's when something really shifts. When there's a steadiness that isn't dependent on the circumstances lining up perfectly. And this doesn't mean that we, neglect our practical needs. They're very real. We live in a world of things like rent, health, relationships, responsibilities, and we have to tend to those things. But we also have to understand that this world is a place of limited resources and unlimited desires. And that just naturally, not everything is going to unfold exactly the way we want every single time. And if we see prayer as a transaction, like God, I asked, so now you delivered, and then once you deliver, then my faith increases. this is a really superficial understanding. We need to learn to see prayer as a connection. We see prayer as a connection, and in that, everything changes. Just turning towards God is already a success because it's this connection with God that brings this calmness, this intelligence, this steady heart. And this is what the Gita is telling us here in this verse, that when we connect with God devotionally, he gives us the intelligence to act wisely. Sometimes he changes the situation, but sometimes he changes us. And often changing us is the greater miracle. Isn't it? Because as soon as we get through this health scare, guaranteed there's going to be another one down the road. That's the nature of this body. It's the nature of this temporary existence we're in, this material energy. So better to change our consciousness around it than to even worry so much about what it is that we're facing in this current time, moment, circumstance. Isn't it? And that's the real gift. And this is the real gift that connection with God offers. This inner steadiness. And so when we realize that our deepest need isn't to fix this outer problem, but to fix my consciousness, then we start to see that prayer always works. It may not always rearrange the world immediately, but it always strengthens the connection if done sincerely. And it's this connection that makes everything clearer, puts everything in perspective, helps us to see with this clearer vision. So I'm going to pause for a moment and see if there's any reflections. I would love to hear from you all, anything that's coming up for you. Can you relate to this about prayer? This can be a tricky thing to do.
I like what you said. Turning toward God is already a success.
Mm.
I mean, and then I just I just saw a YouTube video. I still have to listen to it. Soul is every moment, a soul is talking to God every moment, something like that by Vedaji. And I just saw that and I liked it so that I can listen to it later, but I have to see and it sounds like whatever you said, the prayer, because the soul is always talking to God, about maybe to fulfill the desires. But when we turn our shift toward, actually connecting, and the way you said, when you connect with him, he helps us to raise our consciousness. That is a very beautiful thing. Because all this time we
Yes.
were just, it was about me, the body, the situation, do this, do that. But now we are at the point where all these things doesn't matter, but the consciousness, if it is raising, if it is turning toward him, how feeling so much peace. I mean, that is so valuable.
Yes.
So that is, and lovingly trying to connect and build the relationship. All these points today were so nice.
Yes. Yes. And this is like the next level of prayer realization is that
Yeah,
the point is not to approach God when we're in distress and get him to fix our material situation.
right.
The point is just to connect with God and in that he takes care of us. We
And like,
we yeah.
sorry, like you
Yeah.
said, as we turn, he's the one who makes all the arrangements to go closer to him. And one of that literally example is how I ran into your video first time. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just watching something that I normally watch, and then I came across your video, and I was like, "Oh my God, I need to get connected with this." And then after I got connected with you, I got so many other videos of Veda ji and what was the other name? so many other people. I just kept on getting connected, and I'm getting like all these treasure boxes are being opened for me. So that is a good
Yes.
example.
Yeah, that is a good example. The same thing happens to me such that like things that are like seemingly random and that I'm actually like not even very interested in pursuing, they just like pop up and it just ends up happening such that then those things end up becoming like so profound in my life. I'm like, oh wow. That has happened so much that now I like second guess things when they pop up and my first inclination is I don't really want to do that. I'm like, maybe I should think about that a little bit because this could be, God arranging this in a way that, is for my benefit. And it time and time again it seems to happen that way. Yeah. Aaron, what do you have for us?
Sorry, I'm still walking right now, but um, yeah, I really love what you're sharing today, and it makes me think about a yoga teacher I have who talked once about just thinking about all those like kind of material accomplishments or even like health scares or like the job, the baby, the all of these desires, like just thinking of them as like these peaks in our life, but we're so easy to jump from one peak to the next. And
Hmm.
I just really like that visual because it's like there's so much life in between all of those peaks. And how we can really miss the point when that's all we're looking at and all we're focused on, like especially like you said, you can get the job and then it's like, oh, I'm still not like I'm still hankering or I'm still like unsatisfied um for something more and something else. And then I'm in a class with Giri Govardhan Prabhu, and this week he was talking about the idea of thinking about life as like as our own lila with Krishna, like a lila in training, or lila like with training wheels, I think is what he said. And it's just such a playful thought of like how to approach life. And um I really am sitting with, it's just been like a few days since the class, but it's just been like sitting with that thought of like, you know even like the most material mundane things of like, driving in your car or like going to the grocery store, like whatever, like thinking about it as like lila, it just like puts like a different like tint to it a little bit instead of what I normally am, which is like like set jaw, like clenched, like butterflies in my stomach, anxious about things, overthinking things. It's like um yeah, just like really beautiful thought of like how to change like just even like your daily approach to all those things in the valleys, all the mundane things.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. And that's exactly what this relationship offers you is like a way out of that mountainous landscape. So that it's like you get a health scare, you feel all the things, fear, anxiety, and then you go into this like hyperactive mode where you're then trying to control everything so that your health restore. And it's not that it's, bad to endeavor to make improvements, but at the same time, wouldn't it just be so much nicer if our consciousness was steady and clear and that we weren't so controlled by the ups and downs of life? So okay, I'm through this health scare. Okay, now I'm gonna go hyperactive mode, try to control everything. Oh wait, now here's another health scare. Okay, now I'm going through this again. It's like, no, Krishna offers us something so much higher than that. And when we can operate, when we can connect at a higher level than that, and our consciousness can be raised to a higher level than that, I mean, how much more we have to really actually offer to the people in our lives to enjoy our lives, to, all of these things that people want materially. It's like it will happen naturally for you as a byproduct if we can just if our consciousness can just become clear and steady And this happens from connection with God. This is what God's offering us. Yeah, Stella.
Yeah, I really like uh, this idea of prayer being kind of a continual conversation with, a play with Krishna, because even like Erin was saying, going to the grocery store, I, when you start to turn toward Krishna, like just the display of all like the fruits and the things that I sometimes you just remember like, wow, that like Krishna's such an artist. Like, look at all the colors. Look at it, like so. Even those mundane things can really, you feel gratitude, and prayer becomes more of a thank you than a I want, you know, and also just he's the proprietor, he's the artist, I mean, it's just walking through the world is so much more fun with Krishna next to you.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Stella. Anybody else before we move on here?
Hi, everybody. Hare Krishna. I
Hare
don't know how to
Krishna.
raise my hand.
Nancy, good.
A couple of things, the thoughts. Thank you so much for the class. Kept on thinking about, I don't know what I need. And, if I say, oh, that job, I know from my experience and my past and my addictions, if I got what I deserved, I probably wouldn't be sitting here, right? But so I don't necessarily know what I need, but if I can ask for, can Krishna please grant me serenity? Please help me in each day. Just help me. And I don't know what help means and what the form it has to come. And the other thought I had two other thoughts was expression that's sometimes used that expectations are premeditated resentments, right? So if I have these expectations that this is how my life should go, you know what? I've just been so good. Everything should be so good. And when something bad happens, obviously I feel that, the world is crushing me. If instead I'm like, well, I'm not going to have expectations of what's going to happen. I'm going to try and live each day to the best of my ability with that idea. I love the idea of play, the Leela, and going about my life saying, I get to do this rather than I have to, which is a big change from where I sometimes like, oh, I have to do the laundry. Instead, I get to do the laundry, and I'm not being asked to go down to a river and knock my clothes on a rock. Come on. This is not such a big deal. Let me find the joy in even the mundane things in life so that I can, in fact, um, serve Krishna in a way that my actions are reflecting my words and to be able to really walk the talk. So those are a few things that I thought of. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Nancy. I love that expectations are premeditated resentments. I had to like think about that for a second when you said that, but yeah, that's so beautiful. And you said, I don't know what I need or I don't know what I want. And this is really the wisdom that comes from a life experience like I know you've had and many people in AA or recovery programs have had to get to such a low spot that they learn that like look I can't be the controller of my life because look what I did. I need this higher power to guide me to help me out of this. And that those programs, I've heard my guru speak about those programs that like people that go through those programs are just so qualified for spiritual life. They just have such a mood of surrender. It's like almost natural. It's really kind of amazing. And this is how something like addiction can become the greatest blessing in somebody's life because it brings them, it can serve as a catalyst to into spiritual life to bring you closer to God. And you were really such a testament to that, such a surrendered soul. Really appreciate you, Nancy, all of your wisdom and testament to that. Thank you. And that's actually kind of tying into where we're going next, is that this perspective, can also help us reinterpret our past and our present struggles. Because we all carry around a bag of those things. A bag of regrets, disappointments, pressure, uncertainty. And it's easy to start measuring life in terms of like wins and losses. This failed, that didn't work, I messed that up, this is too heavy. But the Gita really challenges the way we define a loss. The Gita really zooms us out, really zooms us out. It's the ultimate zoom out, that we're eternal souls. We're meant to live in loving relationship with God. And so then the real measure of gain isn't just, did this go my way materially, or did this cause the least amount of pain to me, or the least amount of anxiety, or, the least amount of low. No, that's not the definition of gain. The deeper question is, did this experience bring me closer to God? And from that perspective, even experiences that look like total losses, heartbreak, failure, confusion, humiliation, we're at our lowest point in life, completely overcome by something like addiction, or, this can be completely reclassified, because it's in those moments that we developed a little bit of humility. They challenged us to search more deeply. They turned us towards prayer. They brought us into spiritual life. And when we see life like that, it's like, then were those things really losses? Or were they hidden gains? And if we can see our lives like that and our experiences like that, then even the seeming so-called losses can actually be turned into our greatest gains. And we can see that yesterday's pains may have been the very thing that shaped us into who we are now. Someone more reflective, more sincere, more spiritually awake. Then these things, the stress, the uncertainty, the friction of yesterday become our greatest gains, because we use them as fuel to grow closer to Krishna instead of further away. Not by pretending everything's fine, not by spiritually bypassing real struggle, but by asking, how can I respond to this in a way that deepens my devotion? And that's what the Gita is giving us here. It's not just giving us philosophy. Krishna's giving us a promise. And he's saying that when we serve him with love, he'll give us that intelligence, that inner clarity to navigate life wisely. And sometimes it's just like getting out of our own way here. Like I was so hell-bent on driving my own car. Like that was it. That I'm the controller of my life. I'm going to do what I want, how I want. I'm smart. I can do this. And I had an experience like this in my 20s. I had a really unhealthy, toxic relationship that really forced me to confront, some crutches that I was using to kind of feel validated and worthy in this world. When I say crutches, I mean like, severe codependency. And in that, when that was kind of taken from me and I was kind of confronted with this, it was like, okay, then what is the point of all of this? What is real love? What is real love without condition? What does that actually even mean? What is the purpose of this whole existence? Sometimes it takes getting kind of challenging, getting some of these old conceptions kind of stripped away from you painfully to really, like, to really clear the land for something else to grow. And that's what these seemingly painful experiences in life can be. They can be opportunities to dive deeper, to become more humbled by life, to admit that, what, maybe I'm not so qualified to just drive my own car everywhere and anywhere I want to go. Maybe I do need some divine guidance. And that's what Krishna steps in. He says, look, just open my heart. Just open your heart to me and I'll give you that divine guidance. And this was my experience, like, to the T. But sometimes it takes this experience of just coming to your knees. Just, I can't do this anymore. I'm messing every way up. I like Nancy said, I don't know what I want because everything I want has just brought me to this sad, dark, lonely place. So this is the way that, we can turn our wounds into wisdom, strength, stepping stones. And even if the outer situation is still heavy, we'll start to feel less burdened because we realize that through that we're growing, we're progressing, we're not failing at life. I mean, this is the entire point of it. And this is just a stepping stone along the way. And if we see it like that and use that stepping stone as just that, a stepping stone to get closer to God, we're succeeding. We're succeeding. And this is the Gita's profoundly hopeful vision of life. What do you guys think of that?
Hare Krishna.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
I'll take you. Fireball. Um, oh my goodness. I think this is so helpful and really reminds us how like we're not this body, we're not this mind. And lately I've been thinking like I am not this experience, you know? Especially with the IVF uncertainty, like it's just been so comforting. And I love how you reminded us, keep the goal, keep the goal in mind. And my teacher reminds me of that often. And it's very, very helpful. And it just helps like put everything back in the right perspective. And helps us move on from material and relationship happenings, with family or sometimes that are quite difficult or ongoing, and just reminds us like sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I hate this person. It's like I love them. I do, and just helps bring us back and like you said, keep those peaks a little lower, and the lows a little higher. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all the reminders. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. And sometimes those things like I've had a falling out with my sister. We didn't talk for like a couple years. And in that, it's like this seemingly like really terrible situation. It is. It's painful. It's like all the things. But in that, I even realized, like I'm looking for like an emotional reassurance. I'm looking for things out of my sister that just are never really going to happen and ultimately can really only happen through my relationship with God. And even that was kind of like a reorientation. And in that reorientation, now I have a very nice relationship with my sister. But in that, like I've kind of also removed all expectations and kind of even approached it from that place of my relationship with God. And in that it's much stronger. So sometimes even these, God, like the fire the forest has to like burn down first before there can be some kind of like new growth that is more sustaining, that is, healthier, that is more abundant. And life is like that too. Right? And Krishna gives us these opportunities. But if we don't see it as such, if we don't use these opportunities to really go deep, we're just going to be, it's just going to be, we're just going to be on peak to peak to peak, like Aaron said. Yeah, thank you. Um, was it Kalachandji? Were you going to say something?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. You're really helping me realize something that actually was on my mind almost all night. I think that most of the most painful moments of my life have been in relation to the passing of loved ones. And I'm seeing, and yesterday was the anniversary of one of those. But I'm seeing this morning that in each of those departures, it thrust me into a new position. It thrust me into new responsibilities and to grow and evolve and actually to become closer in my relationship with Krishna as well. So although those are painful moments, I guess, to think about them this way is very positive. And that they, not just they in my life, but their departures in my life have helped me become the person I am. So thank you.
Yes. Yes. And this is, I mean, if we can start to develop this perspective around life, we become like unstoppable. Like the alternative is like we get so caught up in it. You get so caught up in a relationship quarrel or whatever loss that it is, it's something as big as a loss of a loved one or a friend, and we just get so low. That's the material. That's what material thinking gets us. That's what material, even just relation gets us. But when we can spiritualize our experience, it can be the impetus to take us to much higher places, higher connection, higher consciousness. When we can see these things as opportunities to deepen our relationship with God. And once we understand this is actually really the point of life anyway, then we can even be grateful for these experiences because they're helping us, they're assisting us in our journey. I look back on my 20s, that terrible relationship I had that at the time was extremely painful. I mean, some of the things the fear I had, I remember one night like sleeping with a knife under my pillow. I can't believe I just said that out loud online, but I was like so fearful, you know? But now I think back and I'm like, I'm so grateful that that experience really brought me to my knees. And that's what I needed to get out of my, I got this. I'm together. I've got everything together. I control everything. I know what's best for me. It's like I needed to be knocked off of that. And when sometimes, when you're that low, that's what it takes to really open your heart, to be ready, to be fertile. And for me, that's what it took anyway. Um, so yeah, thank you all for your shares. So this last point here, it's a little less heavy, but I think a really beautiful thing about bhakti is this bhakti really harmonizes our head and our heart. And so this is kind of bringing these verses kind of together. Bhakti harmonizes our head and our heart because materially, if we lean too heavily into the head, we might become like intellectually solid, but we can grow emotionally numb. This was like my MO. Like you become analytical, controlled, composed, like disconnected from feeling. You just get really heavy into your head. On the other hand, some people will get too heavy into their heart and they'll just become like so emotionally like fluid that there's like no grounding. They're like, oh, I'm so high. I'm so, you feel everything deeply, but you don't really have like clarity or stability. So the Gita really helps us to harmonize these two things. Before we can harmonize the head and heart, we have to understand who we are. Okay, so if we understand that we're immortal souls, but mistakenly identifying with our temporary bodies, then our worldview just shrinks. Our worldview just shrinks. It's like we're always just looking up at the next peak. I love Aaron's analogy. I just have that whole picture in my head now. You're just looking up at the next peak. We're just like these tiny little, our perspective is so small. Our goal shrinks. Our idea of happiness shrinks. We're searching for fulfillment like only within this material realm. We're just like little ants. And then this is where this imbalance shows up. When our heart is leading us here. We're chasing these material pleasures, sentimentally. We're craving experiences, super relationships, sensations that we're just convinced they can give us this lasting happiness. And we just ignore the simple truth that these temporary pleasures are never really going to fully satisfy a longing that is eternal. But this is where we are. And then when the opposite happens, and we're just super in our head, that we're trying to suppress the emotion altogether. We're attempting to detach from desire itself. Yeah, we just deny that we're even pleasure-seeking beings anyway. But bhakti is like the synthesis. Bhakti expands our vision beyond the material identity. It reawakens our understanding that we're spiritual beings and we're meant for loving exchange with Krishna. And what happens is when we really understand our true identity, our intellect regains its like healthy solidity. It's not dry or dismissive, but it's clear and it's grounded in truth. And from that grounded understanding, a whole new realm of emotion opens up that's also more grounded. It's the spiritual emotion. So in bhakti emotion, it doesn't drag us downward into illusion, but it lifts us upward towards the highest reality. The heart flows, but it flows on the foundation of this spiritual knowledge. So in that space, this head and the heart, they're not competing forces anymore. They're supporting each other. The intellect's providing this clarity and the heart is providing this warmth. And both are directed at Krishna. And that's kind of the key. That's kind of the secret here. And this is where we can really experience balance in our lives, and ultimately real fulfillment. It's like we have to get out of the peaks. We have to be like flying over the peaks, looking down at them. That's the path of bhakti. And our head and heart are both still very involved, deeply involved. But it's at this different level. We're no longer controlled by the ups and downs of the peak, the weathers on the peak, the, thunderstorms that are coming in. No, we're just flying above them. So this is what Krishna's offering us here. This is why these verses are just so potent. And the prerequisite for receiving this guidance from him is opening your heart to him, giving him a nice, soft place to live in your heart. And he'll give you this knowledge, this understanding to come closer to him. Because that's really all that we're talking about here. So to conclude, sometimes we may feel like I'm not advanced enough. I don't understand deeply enough. I'm not progressing fast enough. And this verse is helping us with that. It's telling us, even if you feel limited, Krishna's unlimited and he can guide from within the heart. So the focus doesn't need to be on collecting knowledge just to feel knowledgeable. The focus is just service. The focus is just service. We learn not to inflate the ego, but to align our intelligence in Krishna's service. That's the whole point of all of this. To soften the heart. Chanting purifies, remembering purifies, serving purifies. Study matters because it removes misconceptions. It strengthens conviction. And it helps the mind cooperate with the heart. I always say, I need to disarm my mind so that my heart can open. And when the heart is turned towards Krishna in love, he'll take care of the rest. We don't even have to worry about it. And that's where this next verse is taking us, which we won't get into today, but that's where the final verse of this nutshell series is taking us. But for now, this one is giving us this powerful reassurance. If we take one step towards him in love, he'll personally guide us the rest of the way. What do you think, Stella?
Again, please. Could we hear the verse again, please?
Could we hear the verse again? Yeah. Yeah.
Bella?
I'll read the verse again. I feel like we need to hear the verse again.
I do, yeah.
or I don't
Great.
know.
Please.
To those who are constantly devoted to serving, You want to put it up?
Oh, I can.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me.
Thank you.
So everything you said about the head and the heart is all in there. Just, to serve with love and understanding. What a great verse.
Yeah, it's so reassuring. We don't, it's like the ultimate too. Like, we don't have to do it on our own. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't even have to know, where you're going, what you're doing. Just serve with love and Krishna will guide you. Yeah.
I like what you said, that our vision, our perspective, everything is so limited, but it doesn't matter because Krishna is unlimited. The only thing is that we have to try to establish and be grounded with our relationship. And the other thing that the lastly that you said is so nice, that bhakti is going to expand our vision, and it's going to bring us even higher than all these peaks and all these of course all the anxiety and all these the daily thing is there, but it brings us over that to see, to have a better perspective. And the other things, the tornadoes and this, the weather, it should, all these things, they don't matter that much, because it's, and of course then again we come to our default again, we are in that mindset, oh, I'm worried about this. Then again, as soon as we get connected, we again come up with the over the peak and think that, okay, this doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. What matters is my relationship with Krishna, and he's there, he's the protector, he's taking care of things.
Yes. Yes, us by ourselves, we're like little ants at the bottom of a mountain looking up, or at the top of a mountain being like subjected to the weather patterns up there, which I don't know if anybody's been at the top of a mountain, but the weather patterns up there are nuts, right? But Krishna's offering us in his like super magical airplane, like just come on board, just be my friend, love me, open your heart to me. You can come on board, and we'll just fly over it all. This is what he's offering us. Yeah. We just have to be open to it, to trust him enough to climb on his airplane with him and let him guide us. Anybody else? Aaron?
I think like what you were just saying, that we often, I can really relate to wanting to like be more advanced, or like just be more surrendered, to be honest, like have more trust, have more love. And I think it's like, you know, just in reflecting on that, because we often talk about like, but you also have to be where you are, and like start where you are, and you can't pretend to be um where you're not, right? And ultimately you're the only one you're lying to, because Krishna does know exactly where you are, and everything. So I've just like started to have a daily prayer of like, please just let me trust you a little more today,
Mm,
because it's the only thing I can like think of to like, you know um to not be like sad or disheartened that like I clearly don't have that like level of trust that I want to have.
mm, beautiful. And I think that's, how we really always should feel. Like, I just want to be surrendered more. I just want to love you more. Because I see you, Aaron, like you're constantly listening to classes, you're going to sanghas, you're doing all these things. I see you as someone who's like, that's a testament to how surrendered and how, connected you are, is that you're spending so much of your time doing these things. But a real sincere devotee is always going to feel like I'm, I have nothing. My love is so small compared to what it could be, it should be, and that's a testament of a true devotee. We always have so far to go. We see like that. Yeah. But you're right, Krishna will guide us. We don't have to worry about it. We just try one step at a time. Anybody else? Do you have any final reflections, Nancy?
No, I think that this is a beautiful verse because I keep on second guessing myself. I say, everybody has such great, deep reflections, and I'm just not intelligent enough to get the nuances of some of the teachings that are happening. And I thought, oh, well, wait a minute. If I just give Krishna as much love as I can grow and keep on developing, he'll give me the intelligence eventually. I'll come to some wisdom, from going from the intelligence of reading the Shastra and knowing verbatim to actually having the wisdom where it comes into my heart. Krishna will give me that. So thank you so much. Beautiful class.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. That was so beautiful. Let's just end on that reflection. That was so nice. Thank you, Nancy. We'll see you all on
Retreat reminder.
Monday. Yes, retreat reminder. So we have the retreat coming up April 16th through the 19th. We're going to be doing sound bath, paint and sip, lots of like connecting sanghas together, just like this, kirtan. It's going to be ecstatic. So please come. It's like ladies' night out extended for 3 full days, the 16th through the 19th. You can register on the New Vrindavan website. Aaron's going to be teaching some yoga. We have some nice presenters. So please come. Let me know what it would take for you to come if it's not working for you right now, and I'll try to help. Thank you all. Oh, and all the proceeds go to the women in Vrindavan, the widows in Vrindavan. So, okay. Thank you all.